Welcome to the advent of AI. I'm your host, Paul Drake. I am joined today by Seth Zaremba and Brandon Jones from Be Atomic. And we are talking today about something that is on the minds of a lot of agency owners out there. How can AI help independent agencies scale? What ways can it help them scale? And more importantly, what do you need to have in place to actually reap the benefits of AI? And Seth and Brandon are phenomenal experts on this topic. And this is something they're incredibly passionate about because AI is a tremendous tool. But like anything, if you don't have the right foundation in place, if you're not ready to actually scale because you don't have the right systems in place, you're not going to reap those benefits. It's just going to be one more tool that you throw on top that hardly gets used, that doesn't really give you the kind of benefits and the outcomes you're looking for. So I really want to turn to them. And Seth, I would love for you to kind of talk about the current state as it is for insurance agencies and the challenges that they have today before even the advent of AI. What are the challenges that they have today, and how is AI? Then we'll shift the conversation to talking about how is AI going to really impact that. So Seth, I'll turn it over to you, and Brandon, chime in when you can.
Yeah, I think independent agents and brokers have been unfairly asked to solve for marketplace inefficiencies. If you think about it, customers have platform. They've made their choice. They've chosen Apple or Android. Yes. That's it. That's how I do business. That's how I live. That's my ecosystem, and deal with it. Carriers, who are the originators of technology in this industry, they've chosen what works for them. They've built proprietary systems which are locked up tighter than Fort Knox, or they've gone to large operating systems like Guidewire or Duck Creek to be able to solve all of their problems. And as a result, agents are forced to be the human APIs, and that's hard to do. Now, why is it so hard to do? Well, these huge platforms we have no access to. So customers chose Apple and Android, and there's not an agent or broker out there that has access to that tech. Some have apps on there, but that's about it. I'm very reactive. And it's very hard to penetrate the carrier operating system world. And yet we have to solve for all the things that happen in between. And here's the problem. Traditionally, agents have solved that by throwing people at it. But people are no longer going to be an option because the margins are not sustainable going forward. And so every conversation, whether it can be articulated that clearly or not, is about this topic. And it is the lack of clarity on it that has agents and brokers running all over. But if you think about it, we're in the middle trying to make it all work. And that's the challenge that we face right now as agents and brokers.
The term human API is so perfect because the concept, the main crux of insurance, as you said, it really all boils down to humans moving data from one closed system to another closed system and translating the data from one format into another just to get the insurance transaction moving forward. It is incredibly inefficient. And you talked about the problem with the margins. Human solutions are just not tenable. I really wonder how much of the cost of insurance are really due, especially on the carrier side, are really due to the fact that they're just throwing a massive amount of people at the particular problems that they have, whereas technology can reduce their margin or reduce their operating costs significantly and improve their margins, which hopefully then drives down the cost of insurance for everyone involved. So let's talk a little bit about the prerequisites, though. If you're an agency and you want to scale and you're hearing about all of this fancy AI tools and you're hearing that AI can significantly reduce the operating costs for your agency, what do you have to have in place? What are the prerequisites that you have to have in place to ensure that you are truly successful at adopting this incredible technology?
Well, I suppose, the challenge that we face is the customer has already chosen who's going to solve this, and it's the independent agent and broker, right? I mean, they've already said 82% of the time we want an independent agent or broker to place our commercial insurance risk. 35% of the time, up 2 points over the last couple of years, they've said, we want you to solve our personal lines insurance problems. And so the customer has spoken. They want agents and brokers to solve this. But as we just talked about with the kind of the setup there, we're highly disadvantaged in that. And the reason is because compensation no longer favors the traditional solutions, Paul. I mean, think about it. Customers pay nothing to an agent. They pay a premium that goes to the carrier. The carrier have carved out a section of that traditionally for agents, but total compensation percentage is going down, whether it be through commission or through ancillary bonus or overrides. So the carrier is reducing that as they focus on their profitability. And in the middle are these human APIs trying to solve for that. And so agents have to be focusing on the right things in an environment where they can no longer hire people and the economics no longer support it. Agents have to be thinking or focusing focusing on the things that really drive value, which is relationship building, sales, and growth. Those are the things that really drive enterprise value for the carriers on the distribution side, and that really make the independent brokers sustainable going forward. And so wherever possible, then they have to reduce that human API work, that people doing typing stuff into keyboards in order to survive. And so agents need to invest in the right combination of tools and technology to unify systems, to streamline systems, and to leverage the new tools. And so rather than being afraid of it, they've got to embrace it going forward. And therein lies the challenge, right? Who, what, where, when. And that's what agents and brokers are really, if they align with this thought, this is where they're really struggling to find answers. And it's what we're focused on at Be Atomic.
And I think
Brandon.
part of that, the preface to this was the data, the connection to the data. Seth said human API, and that's the connection to the data right now is the human, right? And a big piece of that is that the human can decipher today where the data is and what they should rely on. And that's the challenge for agents is where is the source of truth? And if they can connect the technology to the source of truth, now you can leverage AI.
I'm glad you mentioned the term source of truth. What does that mean for an insurance agency? What does that mean practically? They have data in different systems. They have a CRM, maybe they have an agency management system. They have their signature tool, and they have all these different softwares. But what does it mean to have a source of truth? What does that look like? What is a really well-performing agency? What does that look like for them?
Well, I think today you mentioned CRM. You've got a management system. There has to be one source of truth. Today, I'm going to say that should be your management system. Your management system should be the holy grail of where data is pure and true and accurate. And everything that touches it, now if that's true, then everything that you leverage to touch it and leverage that in a service or a sales capacity or a lead capacity, now you've got one place where AI can look back and go, and it can see, okay, this is this customer, this is what they have, this is what we're talking about with this customer, and this is the carriers that we're talking with this customer. And without that, I think we've all experienced maybe some hallucination using ChatGPT and asking it a question and it just imagines an answer. Well, I think AI is going to do that if it doesn't have the source of truth,
100%.
right? And so if you have clean, pure data that can be leveraged, can be looked at and seen as the whole picture, now AI can give you more reliable leverage points so that you can offload the human API with technological API.
I wonder, maybe I'll ask this when I get to heaven, what percentage of knowledge within an insurance agency resides within the heads and the minds of the people who work in the insurance agency?
Massive,
versus
yeah.
in a source of truth, in a system of truth. This is one of the main themes that I've come to realize about this show is AI is as good as any employee you have. But if they don't have the information, if they don't know something, AI cannot do the job well. If your employees don't have the information they need to do the job, they're not going to do the job well. If they have information is spread across multiple different systems and the information is incorrect, and everyone is just kind of making inferences about things or guesses as they go along, you're not going to get the kind of outputs you're looking for with AI. You're not going to get the kind of efficiencies. AI requires good inputs. So what you're talking about, and this is something I just so appreciate about someone like Rob Bowen, because he's been banging this drum for a long time, is ensuring you have one system that has all the information and is as complete as possible with the information about who your customers are, what types of insurance that they have, what types of carriers you've gone to on their behalf to get their quotes. Even if going so far as to say, here are the information about the quotes that you've gotten for those customers. Which of those did they actually bind on? All the way through into the billing, making sure that everything is in there and it coheres in one particular system. And then if you do have other systems, those systems are then feeding that data proactively and regularly into that system of truth, that source of truth, so that when you start to leverage the AI technology to do some of these efficiency plays, it's using one source of truth like your employees would. So I think that's really step one is get your source of truth, make sure you have your data in there. And then before you employ AI, making sure your employees it's normalized for them to make sure that everything that they know that's in their heads goes into that system of truth. Okay, so
Right.
Now let's talk about AI. Let's say you have that in place. And if you don't, I think Seth and Brandon would be great people to talk to because I think they could tell you a little bit more about what that looks like with their platform. Once you have that in place, Seth, what can AI do for you? What are you seeing as some of the most impactful points where AI can be deployed to actually help agencies scale and reach that next level?
Well, I'll talk about where we see the opportunity, and Brandon can talk about how we're solving it. So I think there's a lot of dreaming going on about what AI is going to do, and a lot of unnecessary fear that somehow it's going to replace us. We've all heard it before, that the next technology is going to replace us. But in fact, I don't think that's where agents and brokers should be starting. Let's start at the stuff that it can solve right now using existing technology and with easy access to quality data. And so think about, which is a big part of our business model, is repetitive tasks. 65% of an agency's payroll goes into 7 processes, which is just repetition. And these are things like, it's crazy. I know you shake your head, but it's true. We're hiring people at $60,000, $70,000 a year to just over and over 10, 12 times a day, change a red Chevy to a blue Chevy, or change a mortgagee or a lessee on something like that. And that is the perfect opportunity for AI. Think about it. It's structured, it's repetitive, it's high volume, and it's the perfect place to start. And imagine if you went around and gave everybody 65% of their payroll back, what would they do at that time? Obviously, they would focus on relationship and sales. And so I think the place to start is where meet AI where it's at now, which is high volume, repetitive tasks that can allow or enable your humans to be much more valuable to their clients and to the business.
Yeah. And the thing that we're leveraging here is that we're connecting to their source of truth, right? We're giving them the most leverage piece of information on the most highly repetitive thing. You think about what a CSR does when they take a phone call to change a vehicle. Well, they document it in at least 2 places, sometimes 3. And so if we're leveraging the fact that they can do it in one place, and AI can go out and finish the other 2 documentations that need to happen. It needs to happen in their management system, or it didn't happen, right? It needs to, maybe they're using CRM to do that, but it also needs to happen on the carrier side, or else it didn't happen. And so you think about, when someone changes a red Chevy to blue Chevy, well, they do that 3 times.
Yes.
In three different places. Well, let's let them do. I mean, you talk about hair pulling experience and the focus that takes away from maybe some of the more proactive activities that an account manager or CSR would love to do to help leverage growth in the agency or retention of a customer in an agency. Let's say they're middle of an annual review and it's a big client, and then, someone walks in the door or calls on the phone and they need to change that red Chevy to a blue Chevy. Now you're taking 20 minutes out of focus away from that when it can be 2 minutes. We could do that in 2 minutes. Like, let them get back to what they're doing. And, we talk a lot about human multitasking, and I don't think that's real. I think what people do is task switch. Well, when you're switching tasks back and forth all day, 10, 15 times a day in the middle of other things, by the end of the day, what did you get done? And I've lived those days where you get to the end of the day and it's like, man, I was busy today, but I didn't do anything, right?
The customer doesn't care that you did
Nope.
at the bottom line and at
Nope.
the bare minimum. They don't care. They do care though if you're showing up for them, and they do care that if you're actually investing in a relationship with them. They do care if you're going the extra mile. But so many agencies are unable to do that because they're just scrambling to do the bare minimum. We're coming up on time here. Where do you see this going? What is the kind of the next step? And it doesn't have to be too far out, but where do you see the future of independent agencies as it relates to AI?
Well, I think today there's a lot of hype, right? There's a lot of talk. There's a lot of buzzwords. People need to start simple. And I think we've identified some of the most simple things that agencies can leverage, where the rubber can actually hit the road, and they can then leverage their people's time back to things that drive growth and revenue and retention. Those are you think about an agency's existence and the cost. Agencies we see today they're using VAs like crazy. Well, that's a model that's not going to sustain itself either for very long. I mean, there's things that you can leverage VAs to do that would be maybe cheaper than hiring someone on shore. But to Seth's point, the diminishing reduction of revenue in the model that independent agents are working on, you have to have enough scale And I think that having been in the industry now 25 years, so much of what happens technologically is on the front end of acquiring a customer. Almost nothing has been done post bind customer acquisition. It's all people. I mean, you look, carriers do the same thing. It's all people. And that's what's got to change in order to leverage scale. And so I think the thing that we're attacking is the ability for the agents to leverage that scale easily.
Just add to that, because I always like to give agents and brokers a takeaway. I would give you two takeaways on this. Your system of truth should have an API. In 2025, you cannot scale and run a business without access, portability in and out, with access to your data. It's a requirement. If you believe in this podcast, look at your system of truth, your source of truth, and just determine whether or not you can easily access and move data. That's number one. Number two, 94% of all independent agent communication happens through voice and email. And so you have to be looking at ways that you can leverage those to complete those tasks. So get yourself a system of truth with an API, look at where you're spending all of your time, and work with organizations like the Atomic Neon Service Center that'll leverage your voice, leverage your written word to be able to perform these tasks so that you can focus on what drives value.
I think if there's one thing we can also take away from this conversation is you should get tattoos for everyone in your agency that if it's not in the source of truth, it didn't happen. Yeah, maybe everyone just
that's
goes out.
What's going on my back now.
I'm surprised y'all don't have that already. I think that would be an incredible marketing employee for you. Seth, Brandon, thank you so much for coming on. I think what you're talking about is so vitally important for the success of agencies is to have the right foundation in place. How can people learn about Be Atomic? How can they learn more? If they're interested in talking to you, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, pretty simple. You can get us on LinkedIn. We do a lot of posting there. And then also beatomic.com. Just go on. We've got all our product and our platform all lined up on there. And you can fill out a simple form and you will get me or Brandon.
Fantastic. Thank you all. Thank you for listening to The Advent of AI. Have a great day.
Guess that's it.
Elvis left the building.
It's still recording, it's saying, but anyway, we'll chat later.
Okay.
Okay.